Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look then at what is on the front pages. In the next half hour or so, we'll see what's making the headlines with the consultant editor of the Daily Mail, Andrew Pearce, and the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire. Welcome and great to see you both.
Yeah, lovely to see you.
As ever, though, we start with the front pages. The Metro leading with the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps insisting it is premature for people to plan on booking a getaway this summer. Their headline, holes on hold. 1 in 5 vaccinated. The UK leads the way for the rest of the world. That's the front of the Eye. The Press and Journal has word that the number of Scots vaccinated against COVID-19 is now more than 1 million. According to The Guardian, the Prime Minister is facing criticism that the £3.5 billion package aimed at tackling dangerous cladding in high-rise buildings does not go far enough. While the Financial Times reports that Amsterdam has now surpassed London as the biggest stock trading centre in Europe. On a similar note, The Telegraph quotes the Governor of the Bank of England, asserting that it would be a mistake for the EU to exclude the UK from the European banking community. The Sun leads with an exclusive, it says, how a forklift driver spent more than £175,000 using a Manchester City player's bank card. Awaiting more papers, they are late in. Andrew Pearce, Kevin Maguire are here. But the ones we have, bit of a mixed bag. But let's start with that debate about holidays as everyone tries to shape their summer. No such luck, Andrew.
Well, it's talk about mixed signals. So a month ago, we had the Health Secretary proudly telling us he and his family are going to Cornwall. Very nice. I've been to Cornwall, went there last year. And then we have Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary. You ought to know all about transport after all, saying don't book a holiday abroad and don't have a staycation either. Don't book one now to avoid disappointment. So how long these restrictions are going on, we don't know. It's very disappointing because we need something to look forward to, Anna. We're looking forward to a break. We're looking forward to getting away. My partner and I have ruled out any idea of catching a plane this year. It's a hideous experience these days anyway, but particularly we don't want to get caught up in red list countries and quarantining and having to stay in a vile hotel near Gatwick Airport when we get back for £1,750 for 10 days. So we're planning the staycation. And then the Transport Secretary says, don't bother. So who's right? And Boris had a chance at the Downing Street briefing tonight to contradict the Transport Secretary because he did not.
Yes, he did not, because the Kent virus itself is obviously more transmissible. The other variants are clearly worrying people left, right and centre. So why, set your stall out just yet when you know your roadmap is coming in just over a week, Kevin?
Yeah, he essentially said that. We haven't got long to wait. It's going to be the week after next. He'll come up with his roadmap, and I'm sure that'll be very tentative. His roadmaps in the past have been roads to nowhere. He'll be very careful with this one. But I think you could have a kind of intelligent, grown-up public debate, and you don't need the Health Secretary and the Transport Secretary contradicting each other, which they are, and the Prime Minister just swerved. Really sided with either, although I suppose because Grant Shapps spoke out today and said don't book, the very fact the Prime Minister didn't endorse him, I think suggests he's going the other way and will hope to open up the country. Schools are going to go back in England, planned in the week of 8th of March. Then after that, there'll be a programme for allowing outdoor events, then pubs, restaurants, cafes at some point. So I would have thought he's thinking, yes, people will be able to go on holiday in the summer, but not quite sure when that's going to start and what you can do and so on. But you can have that debate. All he has to do is say, look, it's all very tentative. I would hope you can go on holiday in the summer, but if you book it, you've got to be prepared for a cancellation. I suspect those who are running hotels, guest houses, caravan parks, campsites, everything, would quite like some bookings and a bit of money coming in. They might have to pay it back later, but it would help with their cash flow. So I think you should take us along in a conversation, but you have to put all the caveats in that it could change, as you say, the Kent variation, there could be another mutant virus, there could be just a big failure somewhere along the way by the government. Test and trace are still pretty poor, but the NHS vaccination programme, they don't call it the NHS vaccination programme, they call it NHS test and trace. It's not NHS, But what is an NHS and is a real success, they don't call it the NHS. I wonder what's going on there with this government. But nevertheless, you've got to have that conversation. And Charles Walker, Andrew said he wants something to look forward to. Charles Walker, the Tory MP, he's vice chair of the 1922 committee of backbenchers. I thought he was going to blow a gasket today when he was saying this is terrible. You've got to give people something to look forward to. And I think he's quite right. It's all tentative. You can book, but you might not be able to get there. You might get a cancellation. But I think encourage people to book if you think it's going to open up, and you take a chance. I've had several holidays that were booked and had to be cancelled because I wasn't allowed to go on and buy the government. Well, that's, I just accepted that at the time.
Yes, as long as people don't lose too much money, I suppose. And many people have got their rolled over holidays from last year that got cancelled anyway, so they're still waiting for those ones. And weddings too, I mean, bear that in mind. Yes, Sir Charles Walker would have been at the 1922 committee today, wouldn't he, this evening, where Matt Hancock once again repeated that he was going on holiday to Cornwall at exactly the same time as Boris Johnson was in the Downing Street News Conference saying that it was too early to book. So there's certainly the confusion for people. Financial Times is picturing people in Spain, hoteliers there, many of which have closed, talking about being, looking forward to the summer. The difficulty is that really UK tourists are not welcome now anyway because of the UK variant, the Kent variant, and there's a paranoia about this South African variant. So all of it is up in the air, isn't it? Do we just have to be patient, Andrew, or should those desperate deposits be much needed for the tourism industry, do you think?
Look, I mean, if I was advising friends, I'd say don't be catching a flight, don't be booking planes because it's going to be very tricky. Who knows? So think about your holiday in Britain. And look, Grant Shapps can say what he likes. People should make provisional plans. They've got to make plans, particularly if most people are going to have a holiday in Britain this year, if we start opening up, as we think we surely will. For God's sake, the vaccine is being rolled out. It's a great, extraordinary success. EU, eat your heart out. 13 million now we've done. And the whole point of the vaccine, it means we can start to get back to normal. And that's what people have to look forward to, because people are very down in the dumps. Everybody you speak to says this lockdown has proved much more difficult, much harder. It seems to be going on for a lot longer, and people are very down in the dumps. And you do need rays of sunshine to look forward to. You wouldn't describe Kevin Maguire as a ray of sunshine to look forward to, but a week in Bournemouth, maybe.
Yeah, and he's all we've got for now, to be fair, isn't he?
Well, me.
And just confirmation today in terms of better news on the vaccine from the Prime Minister that the intention is that all over 50s will be vaccinated by the end of April. So he said that categorically today, didn't he? Let's move on, shall we, to The Guardian. And just when the Grenfell inquiry is hearing some extraordinary testimony about the flammable cladding used in this country, the government tackled it, didn't it? Throwing more money at the problem, but not enough for many people is the accusation, isn't it, Kevin?
Oh, yeah, it's quite a serious accusation because, of course, they're stopping at 18 metres, so properties under 6 stories, they'll get loans, not compensation. So it's £3.5 billion, but it isn't enough. And you put a £50 a month limit on what tenants might have to pay, but that's $600 a year, and you're still going to have great difficulty selling that property on if you want to move. And Stephen Partland, a Conservative backbencher who probably led the charge, was most angry about it because the people who are not at fault are the people who are living in those properties. There are issues around government regulations. There are issues about the companies making the cladding. There's issues around who put up those blocks. But the people who are not to blame are those sitting in there, sometimes owning them, and they can't move them on. It's kind of the government went some way with some of the taller blocks, but it didn't go all the way. And again, I think there's going to be so much criticism. You do wonder if down the line there will be some switch and some U-turn.
Yeah, and people have given horrible testimony about this. Sorry, Andrew, what they've saying they've had to pay night watchmen who stay up all night to see whether there's going to be a fire, and people aren't sleeping, and all of this. I mean, it's been terrible for people for some years since Grenfell, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, they're living in properties which are potentially flammable and could go up in flames. So they've got that anxiety. They're having to pay for these night security guards who often literally are asleep on the job, so aren't very good. And it isn't their fault. And I don't think the government has, look, it's not the government's fault either. Let's be quite clear about that. Property developers, they're going to get a tax whacked on them. Well, they make enough money. So how much money are they putting into the pot? I'm not clear about that. But there are literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of leaseholders who are going to be financially out of pocket, £50 a month. That could be over 25 years. That's thousands and thousands of pounds. And they're probably going to have property blight because they can't sell their property. They're in a nightmare situation. And I think the government are going to have to come back to the Commons and provide more money. I just don't think this is sustainable, not least because, politics always creeps in here. A lot of these leaseholders are potentially Tory voters in marginal seats, and they will be very, very angry because they have the Prime Minister saying nobody should be out of pocket. Well, they are going to be out of pocket to the tune of hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it certainly feels like something has gone wrong in the building trade to allow all of this to be put up when some of it had that flammable content in it, certainly. Plenty more still to come, and if you miss us talking about Brexit on this programme, we did for years, it feels like, then wish us luck. More on a big new banking row after the break. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire. Welcome back to both of you. After all the debate about what happens at Dover, what happens in Northern Ireland, what happened with the fishing industry, it all went a bit quiet on the City of London, didn't it, Kevin? Not now, it appears. It's making the front pages of a couple of the newspapers, including the Telegraph.
It is, which of course is a big Brexit backing paper. But Andrew Bailey, Governor of the Bank of England, is accusing the European Union of trying to shut out UK financial institutions. The Telegraph records, and the FT in fact leads, on how now Amsterdam's overtaken London as the biggest trader of shares, 9.2 billion a day worth of euros in Amsterdam, 8.6 billion in London. It's because Brussels isn't allowing EU financial institutions to have their shares traded elsewhere. Well, maybe this should have all been thought about beforehand. Many of us may not like bankers, but nevertheless, they pay a lot in tax for the economy, so they'll be missed. So no, it's a big problem here. Andrew Bailey is trying to say, it's going to be bad for both sides of the channel, the EU and the UK. It might be right, but once you're out, the EU, you're going to have no complaints if it's going to try and take your trade, just as the government is hinting and stating that it wants to take EU trade now. The UK is out of the European Union. So it's dog eat dog, but their dog is a lot bigger than our dog.
Do you want to do that, or do you want to get to the dog, Andrew?
Well, can I just say on that, you see, part of the problem here is the trade deal that was struck on the 11th hour with the European Union did not include services. So tourism and all the rest of it isn't covered by that, but financial services is. And so that's all got to be negotiated. So that's part of the reason why Amsterdam has got its nose in front on share deals. But what Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, is saying, if they can restore something called equivalence, I've no idea what it means. It's some financial technicality. They can organise that, all can be peace in our time. But it's a big test here. Relations between us and Brussels have been appalling since we left. They behaved appallingly over the vaccine. They're behaving appallingly over shellfish. And it seems like they're now going to cut up rough over the city. They may not do so well there because we have got one of the most accomplished and sophisticated city trading operations in the world.
OK, we will watch and wait and see what happens with that. To the dog that I was talking about, obviously. 3 photographers being employed. The dog, was it being taken by a taxpayer-funded photographer, was the question. But this has all gone a bit to pot, hasn't it, Kevin? Tell us this story.
It has. This is Boris Johnson, who, of course, is a very, very vain man. And he's got 3 taxpayer-funded photographers on the Downing Street payroll, taking pictures of his dog in the snow. Got released on Flickr, a bit of a mistake because you could see his girlfriend Carrie Simon's telephone number, a mobile number on the collar. Many people have. If you find my dog, ring this number. So that was a bit of an error. But it's this whole idea. Why? Now I can see for state occasions you might have photographers, but your dog, when you're just trying to burnish your credentials and look like a really nice, cuddly person. It's a misuse of public funds. It should not be happening. like this. In number 10, they've been pushing independent photographers, newspapers. They've been pushing them out and just sending out propaganda pictures, but they've gone too far. It's absolutely barking they can get to do this.
We will see
Boom, boom.
you at 11:30. Boom, boom, indeed. Kevin, Andrew, lovely as ever. Thank you.